In 1922, a man in eastern Washington built a gas station shaped like a teapot. Not a sign shaped like a teapot. The entire building, 14 feet across, with a metal handle on one side and a concrete spout on the other. You could drive up to it, fill your tank under the spout, and walk inside the teapot to pay. It's still standing today, off Old State Highway 12 in Zillah. And if you think it's strange now, you should know it wasn't strange then. It was normal. In Winston-Salem, North Carolina, there were 8 gas stations built in the shape of giant scallop shells. In Seattle, you could fill your tank under a 44-foot cowboy hat and use a bathroom inside a 22-foot cowboy boot. In Kentucky, there were stations shaped like teepees. In California, one was built around an actual airplane, with the wings hanging over the pumps. These weren't gimmicks. They weren't tourist attractions. They were where Americans bought gas. And then, in the span of about 30 years, every single one of them disappeared. The country that had built teapots to sell fuel decided almost overnight that a gas station should look like a white rectangle with a flat roof. Nobody voted on that change. It was decided in a single boardroom in 1934. And the man who made the decision wasn't an oil executive. He was a designer who had spent the previous decade drawing cameras. To understand how American gas stations stopped being beautiful, you have to understand what they were doing in the first place. In December 1913, Gulf Refining Company opened the first purpose-built drive-in gas station in the United States. The location was the corner of Baum Boulevard and St. Clair Street in Pittsburgh, and the building had a pagoda-style roof. Brick walls, octagonal floor plan, words spelled out in lights. On opening day, the station sold 30 gallons of gas at 27 cents per gallon. By the following Saturday, it was selling 350. What happened over the next 15 years was the fastest infrastructure boom in American history. Car registrations went from 8,000 in 1900 to 1.25 million in 1913 to 27 million by 1929. Every one of those cars needed fuel, and every oil company in America realized at roughly the same time that they had a problem. There was no way for a driver going 60 miles an hour to tell which station belonged to which company. Gasoline was gasoline. The pumps looked the same. The attendants looked the same. So the companies stopped competing on what they sold and started competing on what their buildings looked like. This is where it gets strange. The industry called it mimetic architecture. Architects called it programmatic. But what it actually meant was build a building that looks like the product, or the brand, or anything memorable enough that a driver passing at speed will remember the name. So Shell Oil in Winston-Salem hired 2 affiliates, Joe Glenn and Bert Bennett, who patented a gas station shaped like a scallop shell. They built at least 8 of them. Texaco, Esso, Sinclair, and dozens of independents started commissioning buildings shaped like windmills, igloos, lighthouses. The most absurd one might be the airplane station on Ventura Boulevard in California. A garage owner bought an actual decommissioned airplane, mounted it on a platform, and ran the gas pumps under the wings. The plane was the office. The wings were the canopy. And then in 1922, in Zillah, Washington, an architect named Jack Ainsworth built the teapot. The reason the teapot existed was political. A year earlier, President Warren Harding's Interior Secretary Albert Fall had been caught taking bribes to lease federal oil reserves at a place called Teapot Rock, Wyoming. He went to prison. The scandal was called Teapot Dome. Ainsworth's gas station was a 14-foot architectural joke about corruption in the oil industry. It's now on the National Register of Historic Places. For almost 20 years, this was the gas station business. Compete on shape. Compete on memorability. Make the building so weird that drivers couldn't forget which brand sold them the gas. And then, 1929 happened. The stock market crashed. The Depression hit. The oil companies still needed to sell fuel, but the appetite for spending money on giant concrete teapots was gone. So, in 1934, Texaco did something nobody else had thought to do. Instead of hiring an architect, they hired an industrial designer. His name was Walter Dorwin Teague, and the year before, he had designed the first popular consumer camera for Kodak. Teague's idea was the opposite of every gas station that had been built before him. Instead of competing on memorable shape, he proposed competing on memorable cleanliness. He designed a white box clad in porcelain enamel with 3 green stripes wrapping around it and a red star above the door. It looked like an icebox. He called it a service station because, in addition to the white walls and the bright lights, it was the first gas station in America to guarantee a clean indoor bathroom. That last part mattered more than anyone realized. In 1934, most rural American homes still didn't have indoor plumbing. A guaranteed clean bathroom on the highway was a revolutionary product. Texaco launched it as the Registered Restroom Program in 1939, and by 1960, more than 20,000 of Teague's white box stations had been built around the world, 10,000 of them in the United States alone. Every other oil company copied it. Shell stopped building scallop shells. Sinclair stopped building log cabins. Esso stopped building everything. By the mid-1950s, the white box, in slight variations, was the dominant gas station design in America. The teapots and the airplanes were still standing, but no one was building new ones. And then a man named Frank Ulrich did something in 1947 that would eventually finish off the white box too. Ulrich opened a gas station in Los Angeles where customers pumped their own gas. He cut the price by 5 cents a gallon. The full-service stations went to their state legislatures and got self-service banned in dozens of states. For 20 years, those bans held. Then in October 1973, OPEC announced an oil embargo. Gas prices quadrupled in months. Lines stretched around blocks. Americans who had been paying full-service prices out of habit suddenly wanted that 5-cent savings back. The state bans started falling. The Fire Marshals Association had already approved self-service in 1969. Within a decade, half the gas stations in America had no attendant at all. And once there was no attendant, there was no reason for the building to exist. A full-service station needed an office, service bays, a counter, a uniform, a clean bathroom. A self-service station just needed pumps, a canopy, and someone in a booth to take payment. So the box got smaller. Then the booth got bigger, because someone realized that if a driver was already standing there waiting, they might also buy a Coke. Then the booth became a convenience store. By the early 1980s, 7-Eleven and Wawa and dozens of regional chains were building gas pumps in front of their stores instead of stores behind their pumps. The gas station, as a building type, stopped existing. It became infrastructure attached to retail. In 1972, the United States had 287,000 gas stations. Today, there are about 147,000 fuel-selling locations, and 79% of them are convenience stores that happen to sell gas. The number that operate as actual full-service mechanic and fuel stations, the way every gas station in America did until 1965, is functionally zero. The Teapot in Zillah is still standing. It hasn't pumped gas since the 1970s. The Hat and Boots in Seattle was nearly demolished in 2003 before the city moved it to a park. Only one of the 8 Winston-Salem scallop shells is left. Frank Lloyd Wright designed his only gas station in 1958 in Cloquet, Minnesota, with overhead fuel lines and a copper roof. It's a museum now. What you drive past today, the flat canopy and the glass-walled convenience store, isn't a gas station. It's a checkout counter with pumps. And the country that once decided a gas station should look like a teapot, a shell, a cowboy boot, an airplane, made that choice for a very specific reason. They wanted you to remember them. The country we have now decided in 1934 in a Texaco boardroom that they would rather you didn't notice them at all. And from the look of every intersection in America, that part worked.